and welcome to HorsePlayers Happy Hour. This is our playoffs. It's also our first of, I guess it's 4 direct qualifiers to the BCBC. We are going to be awarding this Breeders' Cup season. We are in the thick of it, people, and over the course of this next hour and a half, going to be going over a ton of the Breeders' Cup prep races this weekend. Not all, because that's how many there are. One show can't hold them, but are going to do our best to get to as many as we can. That coverage is going to start in earnest after our next contest race, which will be Belmont at Aqueduct's 6th race. We're already in the thick of this qualifier. Had I been prepared, I would have this screen all ready to go to show you the current leaderboards for both the playoffs and for the qualifier, but I'm not prepared, so just going to have to bear with me for a minute. Been dealing with a lot. I'll address the elephant in the room straight off the rip. A lot of people, unfortunately, who qualified for our playoffs did not realize like how this was going down and didn't end up filling out entries. I did confirm that everybody received emails. Goodness knows we talked about it on the shows enough, but, I feel bad. I feel bad. All these people, we're trying to do this thing. So, hey, I guess in one sense, it's great news for those of you who were aware of the situation, and you have fewer people to beat to be in the top 40 instead of 84 entries or whatever it was going to be. I think we end up with 58 entries playing, which is, good, sort of a good news, bad news, the 25 no-shows. But I will say this, for those who are watching, I am going to use a different, first of all, we may tweak the tour point system entirely next year, because I just realized that the whole idea of getting in the playoffs via the tour, it just hasn't really worked the way I wanted it to. The points to qualify via the tour are too low, essentially. You just needed, I think the cutoff this year was 70 points to make it. I think, and I'll talk to the inner circle about this before we finalize everything, but I think we're going to do something more along the lines of finishing the top 5 every week, and you automatically make the playoffs. And the tour is all about that top spot and that $10,000 seat that Julie LeBoyko won. Had a great interview with her. Great to get to meet her on Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge Diaries. Encourage people to look for that in their feed. It's actually not in the feed. Maybe I should start putting that as audio in the feed. But right now that is on the In the Money Media YouTube channel. If you're watching this on social or through the Breeders' Cup YouTube channel, I encourage you to go to the In the Money Media channel and subscribe, because we have a ton of exclusive YouTube content, 4 videos covering stakes races for this weekend alone, JK and myself. And by the same token, if you are watching this from In the Money social or In the Money YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Breeders' Cup YouTube channel, because we've got, first of all, their stuff is great anyway. And then we at ITM are going to once again be contributing a lot of what I think is pretty cool content for them. I'll give you a sneak peek if you're a HorsePlayers Happy Hour viewer. One thing that we're going to do is have my favorite, I think I did my top favorite Del Mar Breeders' Cup memories, along with my top 5 tacos a stone's throw from Del Mar. And that taco list is going to start fights, because there's so many different ways to go. And I'm sure I left off some people's favorites. But one thing I did to limit it was make sure we weren't talking San Diego. We're just talking in the area right around Del Mar. I'm happy with what we came up with. That video is going to be a ton of fun. And then also, JK and I will be doing, I think we'll probably record it next week. Maybe it drops in 2 weeks. We're going to do all, because of back-to-back Breeders' Cups at Del Mar, I want to do all back-to-back Breeders' Cup winners ranked. So what is it, 20 horses? It's at least that. So we're gonna have a lot of fun putting that together for you. That one will not be on the ITM channel, at least not at first. Maybe we'll be able to put it up on delay. But Breeders' Cup YouTube channel, you want to subscribe to it. So here's my idea for how to fix these communication issues for next year. I think what I'm going to try to start doing is have someone on my team, forget, HorsePlayers team has a lot going on, running contests every day. Someone on my team will reach out when each contest is done, like, contest is Thursday. That by that Monday, congratulations to the top finishers. You have now qualified for these playoffs. They're going to happen on this date because that'll be predetermined. And this is key because this confused the heck out of a lot of people. There was no separate link for the contest to join. They just appear in your entries. So I think we need to underline that message. So we'll tell people that when they qualify. Then when the final field is set, maybe I'll send out an email to all 80, or it might be more next year, depending on how we do this with the playoffs. Send an email to everybody, several days before, give props to the whole field, and then we'll hit them back the morning of. And in each of these communications, we're going to point out these are already populated to your email. And because it's coming from me, I'll even say, look, if you have questions, reach out to me. Now, we did have a few sharp players who had questions, weren't sure. Mark Henderson comes to mind, reach out to me directly, and I was able to give him a steer. I should have known if somebody like him hadn't figured it out intuitively that there would be others. Anyway, what's done is done. All we can do is do what's better for the future. I don't think it was really unfair. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think it was, if you were paying attention, I don't think it was that hard to figure out, but obviously that many people missing out means our processes can be better. The whole point here is to have fun and not make people have to do too much extra homework, etc. We will endeavor to do better in the future because that's just how we roll. Good stuff. So lots of comments already that I'm seeing. Share a couple leaderboards, and then we're going to have a couple of guests. The guest waiting in the waiting room doesn't even know this, but a little later in the show, after the 7th at Belmont at Aqueduct, we're going to bring in a guest from Daily Racing Form, who are proud partners with the Breeders' Cup this year. Gino Bucola will be joining us to tell us what's coming up from DRF in terms of their special Breeders' Cup coverage. Of course, we have our special Breeders' Cup coverage as well through our In the Money Plus service. This weekend, in fact, we're doing a free preview of In the Money Plus. So all you have to do is sign up for the free email, inthemoneypodcast.com/email, and you're going to get a ton of extra stuff this week, including trip notes for one of the prep races, which is a new thing we're doing. We're going to be doing, for the big Breeders' Cup package, horse-by-horse notes for all of the Breeders' Cup races. We're going to tease that a little bit. I've got a horse-by-horse for the Miss Grillo on Sunday coming up. You can see what that's all about. You'll get notes from all the shows, including this one, so you don't have to write down what we're saying. You get a chance to then see our picks graded out as A's and B's, and there's so much more. Eric DeCoster's Keeneland Journal, that's something coming up. Oh, betting strategy, we're going to have pieces about that. There's so much good stuff coming for the Breeders' Cup coverage. Check out a little small sampling of it this weekend in themoneypodcast.com/email. And then, if you so desire, for the price of 1 month, just $20, you'll have an opportunity to get all of our Keeneland extra coverage as well as that special Breeders' Cup package, which we heartily encourage you to do. So which is up on screen here? I think this is for the qualifier. Yeah, that looks like the qualifier. So I'll read you through what's going on in here. Very happy that we got enough entries. I was reminded by Michael Domable that one of these years we did this. The first week we actually didn't fill. We were a little underwater, as they say. In other words, we were guaranteeing more of a prize than the money we brought in. This time we did pretty well. 81 entries. That means 1 BCBC seat. And then several people get meaningful breakage as well. So a lot to play for here with 3 races left to go in the contest at Belmont at Aqueduct. Joe Kramer right now in pole position. He's got the forerunner. It's 6-1 in this upcoming race at Belmont at the Big A. Cameron Radis, George Shute, who I've had the pleasure of meeting many times, Terrence Frank, Stefan Gravia. We'll just give the first 5 for that contest. Obviously, really all about the winner with that $10,000 BCBC seat on the line. Now, here is the aforementioned playoff contest. Familiar name in Matt Miller on the leaderboard here. I can't tell if he actually made picks this week or if there's some sort of randomness or pattern going on. I'm going to guess these are quick picks from Matt. They're doing well so far. He's also on that forerunner here. 3 races to play. But remember, this one, you got to be in the top 40 to advance. And with 25 no-shows, I mean, look, 18 entries are still going to get unlucky. But I'm not going to bother to read all of them. I will do all 40 at the end, or I'll make the co-host do it. But I'll just scan through here and we'll see lots of familiar names, including Mark Henderson, who we talked about before. Chris Couples will name check because he's been so active in the comments. Paul Weiser does such a great job getting value for money in contest play. Justin Christine will be part of that Trip Notes team we mentioned. Michael Dommel will be aforementioned in there as well. I mean, I could name check everybody, really. Jackson Muniz, good to see him on the board looking to advance. With all the ties, it's actually at this point a little hard to know exactly where this cut line is, but all to play for everybody with, I think it's 58 entries. Yeah, see, look at this is my secret shame here. All these X's, people who didn't get their entries in. Oh, well, you only live twice. We will endeavor to do better, like I said. Okay, with that said, we've got 3 minutes to this 6th race at Belmont at the Big A, and we're going to bring in a man to give us an opinion on it. You're going to be hearing a lot from him throughout the course of this now hour and 20 minutes. We're going to be on these airwaves. He's been doing an incredible job covering the harness side for us for years, and he's been super active throughout 2024, taking In the Money Plus into a new level, helping out on the contest jockey front, and often helping me out in this chair, metaphorically, for the In the Money Players podcast. He's Mikey P. Mike Probosi. What's going on, buddy?
Wow, HorsePlayer Happy Hour. Geez, I went from Players Pod to now HorsePlayer Happy Hour. I'm really like this. I think I've come to the pinnacle of ITM now. I'm here. No JK, Mikey P, right here.
That's right. Well, you can put that on your resume. Who has done work for clients, including Breeders' Cup now, because these are on our airwaves, but I really think of this as a Breeders' Cup show, and as brands and racing go, they certainly don't get any bigger than Breeders' Cup. You're going to be a big part of our Breeders' Cup coverage moving forward. We'll get to that, but right now, let's give the people a winner at Belmont at the Big A as they are approaching the gate for this 6th race. I'll start off with a more vague and general question for you. Did you have a strong opinion in here?
I wouldn't say a strong opinion. I mean, these maiden claiming type races, I think, are difficult, especially 7 furlong maiden claiming races. You get horses that are dropping in. The drop from maiden special to maiden claiming is the biggest drop in racing, and no matter, I think, whatever track you're racing at, and you have some maiden special weight droppers in here. I'm going to take one of those droppers. It's the two, the Chad Brown Waja. This horse drops. Now, the reason I like this horse a little bit was the 2 Aqueduct races are better than the Saratoga ones. And I do think 7 furlong suits this horse. You get Pratt to stick here. I just think probably the drop will help this horse. There's not a ton of form in here that really gets me that excited. I do think that the one is a tad over bet right now, 6-5 on the board, coming off that 80 figure. But prior lines really don't impress. Longtime maiden. So this horse, I do think on the drop for Chad has a big chance that you're getting 4.5 to 1. So I think that's a fair price on this horse.
I like that call a lot. I mean, this horse 3rd off the bench. Another thing I like to see with Waja is that he has been in the hunt, at least to the pace call in these maiden special weights. Sometimes I think maiden special weight droppers they can be over bet when they've done just absolutely no running. This horse has at least been in the hunt at the pace call. And in the case of the race 2 back in a fast pace, maybe it was a little bit against the grain of the track last time. 3rd start is a gelding, 3rd start off the bench, meaningful drop in class. And I agree with you. The 2's kind of making the market here the 1's making the market for the rest of these. And I'll tell you what, I don't think the 6 Dark Devil is really any bargain at 9-5 either. I'd rather try a horse that I can feel like is a little bit unexposed in class terms, like your 2, or maybe the 4 Missouri River, who we saw plenty of support for when we looked through at that leaderboard. I mean, this is one that has more of those maiden dropping running lines where there wasn't a whole lot of running going on, but it's been such a long layoff. Maybe that workout 2 back signals a little bit of aliveness from this one. It just feels like a whiff of value. Nothing great, but the kind of horse that probably, to my view, the favorites being overbet, this horse should probably be more like 4 to 1 and is like 6 to 1. That's not cut in line to bet percentage-wise difference, but it's enough to want to keep a horse on side. I'd think about playing doubles here, maybe with the 2 and the 4 into that nice stakes race that we have coming up. That's the Gia Ponte, big well, it was a big full field. We've seen a handful of scratches in that one, but that'll still be an interesting race. We'll talk about that. First thing we're going to do, though, is we'll talk through this race. Unless you want to pull a Ray Catolo, Michelle, and call the thing, Mikey P.
Yeah, not really much of a race caller. We'll leave that to the professionals, and I'm more of a race watcher and commenter. So we'll try that.
That's what we'll do. I'll let you take the lead to rest the old voice while we do that, and then we're going to dive in to, as promised, some of our weekend preview coverage. So it should be good. It should be. I'm excited. I'm excited for this show. It'll end up doing double duty for us on the Late Week Players pod as well. So it'll turn up in podcast feeds, but I'll edit it so that we'll edit out the stuff about the races that are happening now. Decent break for Waja there. You okay with this position, stalking a long shot leader in the early stages of the race?
Yeah, it looks live so far. Set up in the pocket, certainly loaded right now. I think behind the early pacemaker. There's some others chasing in the race. I do think the one's probably in an okay spot too. So it looks live here. The four, pretty far behind right now. It's probably going to have to be really good to win from there. But the two sort of is checking now a little bit, which I'm not crazy about.
Yeah, they're under pressure. The two under pressure. The six, the seven, who's a 40-1 shot, just came to the race looking like a serious threat, traveling much better than the favorites or the horses we talked about. But right now, Paxational might be going as well as any of them. Straight
coming out now a little.
Yeah, we'll see if this horse down at the
inside. Finally in gear here.
Yeah, who's that down at the inside? Is that the six? Yeah, that's the six.
It is the six.
Though, in danger of finding.
They haven't beat the three yet.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. And now the three is going to hold. It's going to come three and six for the contest purposes.
16-1 there.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing with these maiden claimers. Speed. They just often don't want to pass people or pass horses, I should say. That's why they're maiden claimers. But you get the gold star if you can make Paxational on the lead here. Just looking at pace figures, I mean, was on the lead in some of those turf races, but turf races going longer. Have to call this a very canny ride from Dylan Davis as we see his ROI improve that much more. You ready to talk about some of this action that we have cooking, starting with Keeneland?
Let's go. Yeah, but huge weekend of racing here. I mean, it doesn't really get much better besides Breeders' Cup Derby weekend. I mean, these prep weekends like this, Keeneland back in gear. This is the time if you want to play. This weekend is really the way to go, I think.
Somebody could make a case that this is the best weekend in racing of the year, just because of the depth and the breadth and the fact that it is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal. Next up on the show, we look at Keeneland. We'll start off with action on Friday, starting with the Phoenix Stakes. Winning, you're in action for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I couldn't get away from Nakatomi in here, Mike, and I should have introduced you to those listening. Mikey P, Mike Probozzi joining us for this segment. I just thought Nakatomi looked so strong coming off that win in the Vanderbilt. That was a big figure. It's been validated with good runs from the likes of Skelly and My Buddy B. They came back to improve their figures even if they didn't win. This horse is well rested in career form, and I like the look of that local work tab as well, and the pace this one expects to get. Looks to me like all systems are go. Who do you like in the Phoenix?
Well, I do think we do have to remember that these are preps for the Breeders' Cup, and Nakatomi was favored in this race last year and ended up second. Maybe it was a little too far back, lost the Hoist of Gold in that spot. I'm going to try Comedy Town just on the come here. I like the horse's 3 dirt races, 3 straight wins. Now, all at Gulfstream versus lesser horses, but this race didn't come up that tough. This horse has shown, that he should be close enough to the pace. 6-year-old finally maybe has got what he's wanted. I mean, has been on synthetic, has bounced around in claimers. He needs to class up, but I will try him. I'd be curious to get the price because I do think Nakatomi is probably 3-5 in this race.
Oof, at 3-5, that would be too short for me. I'll say that right now. With so many options this weekend, though, the good news is you could look in another direction. Any others you wanted to name or number check before we move on from the Phoenix?
I've always liked Federal Judge. I'm just curious to see how he races without Lasix. I do think he's fast. I think he's talented. He's third off the bench for Cox. He could be tough to catch in here if he can handle the no Lasix.
Florida bred certainly hold a strong hand with Federal Judge and Comedy Town participating in this one. Let's move on to the Jessamine, and this will be the first of many, many races on the show where I say the same thing, which is that if you want my thoughts on it, I've done it in 2 other places already. We talk about it in a YouTube video I have with JK talking about Keeneland this weekend. It's also part of the Baby Talk show with Cormac from Keeneland Sales that just dropped. So I'm going to skip my opinion on this one. You can find it in many other places. Check out Baby Talk and the YouTube video. While you're over at YouTube, please do us a favor and subscribe so you don't miss any of our YouTube exclusive content. Mike, though, we'll give you the word, and I'll chime in if I have anything to piggyback. But who's your selection in the Jessamine?
Do like a little bit of a price here, the 8 Mayday Ready. I really like this horse. First time out August 4th at Saratoga, was able to win a nose, a 25-1, and was just able to hang on in there. Well, shipped to a Kentucky Downs off that win and was able to win one of those big pot turf races there, going a mile. This horse keeps the Tory, obviously. I just think can win with any trip, has shown the ability to be close, has shown the ability to make big moves from off the pace, and you're going to get a price. I mean, 8-1 morning line, I think, is with enough speed in the race to set this horse up. I do like this horse right back. Now, alternatives, maybe the 6, Destino d'Oro, 3-1 morning line. Pratt, Cox, obvious off that really nice win from off the pace there back on August 31st at Kentucky Downs, but has to step up here. So I think it's those 2 in this race, but it's so wide open.
Indeed. Cormac and I have a few other thoughts, but that certainly makes sense. I like that shout on Mayday Ready, who was Mayday Ready entered in the Miss Grillo last week and then not this week. So that's kind of interesting that maybe they had this race in mind all along. We seem to have lost Mike there for a second, so we'll wait for him to pick back up, and then we'll continue. And we will continue with one more race from Keeneland on Saturday. Grade 1, Alcibiades, 2-year-old fillies. Race, as I've joked in many other forums, responsible for one of the most infamous pronunciations in the Money podcast history. If you know, you know. But I, again, give my thoughts in multiple other places on this one, so Mike will bring you in for the winner of the Alcibiades, not to be confused with the Alcibiades.
I like Quiet Side in this race. I really love that debut. And then the Spinaway, I just think maybe was a really tough race. And I thought had a tough trip in that spot. Got picked off late by Immersive, but I thought that she did most of the work in that Spinaway. This horse has ultra talent, 2 big figures so far, and the stretch out I don't think will be an issue for this one. So I do like that one best. But I could see Quick Kick also for Tom Amoss. Just a really nice race there on September 1st. I was able to sit off the pace and really finish while stretching out. The extra distance here I think will suit. I like the tractability. There's just a lot to like, I do think, with Quick Kick here, especially in the hands of Amoss. I like that. I thought this horse was a little professional there that time on September 1st at Saratoga. So I do think that with the increase, she should be set up nicely here. So Quick Kick and Quiet Side for me there.
I'm hoping Quick Kick is more than the 4-1 of the morning line. I think so much support is going to go to the 78. Cormac and I had a little interesting, friendly disagreement about Quiet Side, who, spoiler alert, was my top pick. He was just a little worried on the blood and on the way she shaped in the race last time about her ability to stretch out. I'm just hoping she'll be seeing a better effect if she can just carve out more even fractions as opposed to making that sort of inefficient early middle move. I'm not willing to give up on her ability to get the mile in a 16th. Obviously, you agree, Mike, from the fact that you picked her, but any particular thoughts on her ability to see out this trip?
I mean, she's out of Malibu Moon there. I mean, she's got APND. Now, I realize that she's sprint bred on the bottom side, but had the 11 post last time there, and I didn't like the trip. Was wide most of the way. I thought made an early move into the race. It was a sloppy track. I mean, there was things that went against her in there. So I do think that she's possible here with a better trip and just on her talent alone. And a lot of times with these 2-year-olds, that the talent can carry them, especially at Keeneland, short stretch, mile and a 16th. I mean, this horse could definitely get the jump on some of these other ones, and if she does, she's going to be really difficult to beat.
Let's move on to Saturday. It's the TCA fillies and mares going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Potential key key trial, as it were, for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint. And there's one in here that I think looks like a leading contender for that race potentially, though obviously Ways and Means may have something to say about who the leading contender is. But I really like number 3, Bright Work. To me, just looks like one who took her game to a whole new level last time in the Prioress. It's great to see them make such a big jump up between seasons, in her case, between 2 and 3. Sometimes they just keep improving. Very, very interested in this horse. And one of these videos we're going to have coming up, speaking of Ways and Means, we're going to have a bunch of much earlier than usual preview content for free, in addition to all the plus stuff we've been talking about on the In the Money media channel. One of them is going to be horses we're excited to see at the Breeders' Cup. I have a feeling Ways and Means might end up on that list. But let's see what Brightwork does. She puts on a show. She might be my top one heading into that. It's such a fun time of year when we're getting to not just handicap these races, but also look for clues for the big ones. But for now, let's focus on this TCA, Mikey P. Who do you like?
Agreed very much on Brightwork. Really never looked a loser there in the Prioress, and has a win over this racetrack. She's just a brilliant sprinter, and I think the comeback was very encouraging. She has to be able to improve here. I don't really think that this race is all that difficult. It didn't come up as tough as it has in prior years, so she looks very difficult to beat. Now, she's going to be a short price, but I do think you could single her in many multis there on Saturday.
This is one I really wouldn't mind standing alone with, whereas Nakatomi, if odds on might give me a little bit of pause, look for other places. I do agree. Brightwork looks one like you could build a big type of a play around. Let's go to the very next race, the First Lady Grade 1 action for these fillies and mares on the turf, going a mile, and we've got some interesting European participation in this one in the form of Tarawa, who robbed of one of the top 10 pro punters in the UK today, had running to about a 97 last time. That doesn't give her some huge edge in this spot, but I really like her. Dermot Weld doesn't ship over often, but when he does, as with Tarnawa, I talked about this race in the video with JK, and I somehow was talking about Dermot Weld and Breeders' Cup, and somehow didn't forget Tarnawa, but the word didn't come out of my mouth. We know what he's capable of. We know he's good at finding ones when he does ship over. We're going to win all sorts of USA races, including a dirt classic back in the day, but that's a subject for another podcast. Anyway, I thought Tarawa had the credentials to do really well in here, and I thought it would be a backable price potentially. Very, very interested to see how she gets on. Do you like her? Do you like the home team against her in this year's First Lady?
I do like her. I like when Weld ships over with horses, and I've always been a huge fan of his. He used to come, during the Arlington Million Carnival and would send horses over, and they would all be live. And, his obvious Breeders' Cup success, when he ships to Keeneland, he comes, ready to roll. And this horse has faced the boys, over in Ireland several times and has raced very well. So this is a good spot, I think, for this one. Draws well, should be able to maybe sit back and, make a move, to outkick a lot of them. But you have to deal with the Chads in here. And you got Gina Romanica, obviously loves this racetrack, won this race last year. Is set up again, I think, off a pretty nice race last time when just unable to catch one of the other Chads. So you never know which Chad's going to show up, but I do like her over this race course. I do think that she fits here more than any of the others. And then I think Walkathon's worth a use in Maltese. 10-1 morning line, Ian Wilkes, 3 straight wins, just keeps getting better. And, that Kentucky Downs win was really nice. She was never losing that race. She's speedy. She likes this track, has a win over it. I do think that's a big angle. Horses that like this course, it does make a difference. It's something that I've used for years. And we'll see what AG Bullet does. I think that horse is the key to the race. Very speedy, but this is a tougher spot stretching out for that one. So I think a quick pace. I'll try the 2, the 4, the 5 there in the First Lady.
4, 2, 5 in that order for the purposes of the notes we'll be sending
around.
I think so. A part of our plus preview. Just a reminder, inthemoneypodcast.com/email if you want to see what that is all about. Yeah, I was thinking that Ag Bullet or AG Bullet and Walkathon might hook up early, setting it up for what I'm guessing will be the off the pace run but hopefully not too far back off the pace run for Tarawa. But we'll see how it plays out on Saturday. Let's get to this Breeders' Futurity Grade 1 action. My thoughts once again on YouTube and Baby Talk, but who do you like?
I'm going to try pricing here. I just think so much is going to flow through Ferocious in this race. All the multis, everyone's going to be, I think, hyped up to bet this horse. And I thought the Hopeful was just okay. That horse was, 3 to 5 in that spot and just kind of idled around the turn there. Re-engaged after, basically the race was over after the horse got passed. And I do think that maybe makes this horse look a little better than he might be. Now, he's fast against the clock. He has huge figures, but I don't know. I think you could get separation in this race. I'm going to try Tenacious Leader. I like that Todd shows up in here with him. Got the 2 turns last time there over the grass and just missed against Zulu Kingdom, has won back out of that spot. It's interesting that this horse shows up here, has shown speed, has the right to improve. Now, outside post, but I don't know. I think that this horse has a legitimate shot getting back to the dirt, and you're going to get a price here. So I think that one's a definite use. I think East Avenue is also a nice horse. That big blowout win there at Ellis and plenty of speed, and big figures come firing out. That one could be a problem if able to be left alone early. So. And I think that McPeak, Handsome Pants, the 4, is also another one, was able to win from off the pace first out. Now, his barn doesn't necessarily fire first out, and this horse won very well there. You get his main man, Brian Hernandez. This horse could get a trip in a very speedy race. So I want prices in here. I would be heavy 4, 5, and 9.
9, 5, 4 in that order. I'll write them in the order you said them, unless you correct me.
9, 5, 4, yes.
Looking to stand against Ferocious. Very bold. One who, to me, shapes like one who's really going to improve for the added ground, but we'll see. Nothing wrong with taking a shot against a horse who's going to be as short as Ferocious is, if that's your opinion. But we're definitely a little oppo in the Breeders' Futurity. We'll see how it plays out. For much more on that race, again, check out Baby Talk and the video over on YouTube. Cormac and JK both had some interesting price ideas to mix in as well. Race number 10 is the Turf Mile, and this is one once again where we've got interesting European participation. Nick has Kikuli shorter than Mountain Bear, which is interesting. I would have thought they would bet it the other way and that Kikuli might be some value, but even at the 4 to 1, Nick made Kikuli on the morning line. I'm okay going with this one because this is the type of Euro I really like going a mile, essentially. I like the stretch out. The 7 furlongs there requires more stamina than a 2-turn mile here. I have no doubt in my mind in that. And I just think this horse has run some rock solid numbers. And I think coming out of, a sprint race over there, even a stamina testing one, should be in a really good spot in a race that just doesn't have a ton of speed. My issue with Mountain Bear, who I would want on some tickets as a backup at least, but horses often slow away, often needs a pace to develop to do the best running. And I'm just not quite sure where that pace is coming from in this year's Turf Mile. So I do like those. I'm also very curious what they do with More Than Looks. More Than Looks, if you remember, was supposed to run in the Lure Stakes, and then that got canceled. So they went in the 4-star Dave. Thinking about that, with it not even being the plan, everything really against him, that was a heck of a race to close in a speed favoring flow to get within, hailing distance, 4 lengths of Carl Spackler, who of course reopposes here. I think More Than Looks is one I want as a backup, and I'm going to take on Carl Spackler in this spot. He's such a cool horse, but you look at the 2 trips that have kind of undone him, and it's when he's been wide on courses. And I think from this 9 post, unless they just decide to clear, maybe they decide to clear. Those are the tactics I'd like to see. If I knew he was going to clear, I would at least be backing up with him. But I do worry about him getting in like a stalk attacky position, running wide around the turns and just finding 1 or 2 too good for him. I love him as a horse. I certainly wouldn't leave him out underneath. But I thought this was maybe an opportunity to oppose him as what I think will be a pretty strong favorite in this year's Turf Mile. How do you see it?
Well, first I want to ask you, what's your opinion with the 2, the fact that he's raced 6 times and 5 of them have been basically on straight courses? Is that something that you even consider or think about? The fact that it has to come over here and gets a whole different configuration?
Yes, if it's depending on what type of horse it is. So watching the tape of Kikuli, this looks like a handy type. It's not some big galloping behemoth who I'm anticipating having trouble running around turns. To be able to have the speed to do what he's done over there and to be like a handy, balanced sort, I'm guessing turns are going to be no problem for him. But it is absolutely something you have to look at. You know, you'll see horses who have tried left-handed and don't like it, and they're usually bad bets in America. I much prefer a horse that's had success at York or Leopardstown, and we know can make that left-handed bend. But going this mile specifically, these 7 furlong straight types, they'll often handle it. And I used to be a little reflexively opposed to them because they didn't have the course success. But I think in my mind anyway, I've identified a certain type that will handle it. Kukuli is that type for me.
I think Kukuli has to class up a little in here. Has faced a lot of straight 3-year-old stakes, whereas the one has faced older in its last 3, and certainly I think has classier lines. Is certainly right there versus the Diego Velasquez's of the world. And this horse has shipped over before. Last year, raced in the juvenile turf and was second at a big price. So, when O'Brien ships here, especially with 3-year-olds, that interests me a lot. I do like when he brings 3-year-olds over here. A lot of times when he comes over for the Breeders' Cup with 3-year-olds, you have to really pay attention because they have run very well for him in the Breeders' Cup. But I do like that one. I like Talk of the Nation also. I mean, Pletcher has done very well in this race the past couple of years here. And this horse maybe is a little bit hidden. I don't mind the last race. No one was catching Goliad there at Kentucky Downs. That horse dominated a couple races over there. This horse race made an early move in the Arlington Million. Has previous lines against Carl Spackler and has shown speed. I do think is going to be a price. You get 8-1. I think you're going to get more than that. The Euros are going to take a lot more money in this spot. So I just think that, Carl Spackler, we're going to see, what happens here coming away from Saratoga and his beloved, inner turf. I do think that and now he's stuck with a 9-hole at Keeneland, and he's going to be overbet, and the Euros are going to take a lot of money. So Pletcher, I think, is very interesting here with Talk of the Nation at a decent price, has proven capable, and was second over this course too. So we know that that's not going to be an issue. So I like that one. I prefer the 1 to the 2, and I agree with you on More Than Looks. I think as a use in Maltese, everything was built up that they were sort of going easy. Ended up in the 4-star day, raced very well in that race. I think was too far back in there early. Should get a setup here. Has some class to him. I like him. I think the morning line probably it's fair, but you might get just a little bit more depending on how the race is bet and how much money the 2 takes.
It's definitely bet a lot differently in Europe, so it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. I'll write down 1, 6, and 3 for you. My only objection is, Kukuli, I don't think there's any question about class. I mean, the jersey is like the best piece of form in some ways on the board here, just because it's a major race at Royal Ascot, and he beat Mountain Bear in there. And typically, Group 3 over there will win Group 1 here. I mean, how many times have we seen that? But I mean, you do raise valid questions, and Mountain Bear certainly has been facing better competition. If they go unexpectedly fast, if you told me what the pace was going to be and it was going to be fast, I would definitely want Mountain Bear over Kukuli. It was more about my guess at the race shape and my guess at the price might ultimately end up being that pushed me in that direction. But yeah, you make a great point on Talk of the Nation too, just in terms of one that could kind of sneak away because there's going to be Euro money, there's going to be Carl Spackler money, and that horse, isn't too far out on the best race. More Keeneland to talk about. We go to Sunday. I did have
you skipped over the Woodford. Do you want to skip that one, or do you want to go to that one race 6 on Saturday?
I must not have written it down in my. No, I didn't. I just skipped over it. Let's go back. So before we go forward, we'll go back. Just as Mike says, I started us a race too late. We should have talked about the Grade 2 Woodford. I liked Our Shot. Nothing too clever here. Just a horse that's run some big races, been knocking on the door. I'm hoping Coppola and Super Quest, and there's another speed type in here that I didn't write down in my notes, can keep this honest and set it up for one with a late kick. I was a little master of the obvious. I actually haven't looked at the morning line. Not sure what price Nick made Our Shot, but I'm guessing among the favorites. But I was also guessing tough to beat.
Yeah, Our Shot 4-1 morning line currently. Agree on that one. I think is worth a use. Certainly likes the course. Really 2 tough beats in the last 2 races. Although Big Invasion didn't exactly come back to impress last weekend. I have a price in here.
Yeah, don't be too that mad at Big Invasion. He just didn't see out the 6.5. What? That was one of those races. Watching it live, like halfway through the stretch, it was like he's going to win. and then he just clearly got exhausted and didn't see it out. It's not like he's some bad horse.
No, I don't. Yeah. That was more like I don't know. We touted him all over the videos last week and sort of were disappointed. But I like a horse. I'm not sure where this horse is going to show up here because he's entered in several different places. But the two Axthelm's 15-1 morning line is third back here for Safi. Gets away from Cogburn. I thought raced pretty well at Kentucky Downs from pretty far back last time. This horse is very interesting here. The prior race there on September 1st was excellent. So has shown the ability to win up close, has shown the ability to rally from off the pace. You don't have the killer Cogburn in this race. This is a wide open race here. I mean, this could go a lot of different ways here. There's, no balls is certainly a stellar horse, but he's not in the same form as he was last year at this time. Super Quest, I think, is a speed type, but really has never proven to beat some of the better ones. It's a very wide open race. I don't really like Arzak either. I think he's off form and he loves this track. He's going to take a lot of money with that 2-for-2 record at Keeneland. His last two races really aren't that impressive. I mean, really hasn't done much at all. So I think this is set up for a price here. And if the 2 ends up in the spot, doesn't end up somewhere else, I do think is definitely worth a use here.
Let's go fairly quickly through Sunday, but I do think we have time to talk about these at least in short order, especially because a couple of these races I already talked about on another show, on various other shows. So let's go right to race number 8 at Keeneland, which is the Indian Summer Stakes. Did you have a selection in this one?
So I guess it depends where Chasing Liberty shows up, right? I mean, that one's another one that's entered in New York and is entered here. If the horse is entered here, I do think we'll take money, especially coming off the Kentucky Downs second place finish where, was interfered with in the stretch and ended up being put up there for Rob Atras. So that one definitely plays well in here. I think Dream Away plays well also for Wesley Ward. Nice big win there at Monmouth last time. Speedy, big figure. Should be, I think, in front here. A typical Wesley Ward at Keeneland. Catch me if you can. So I was on those two in this race.
Spoiler alert, we're very similar if folks want to go find my analysis. So speaking of my analysis of races, attheraces.com is going to have horse-by-horse write-ups for me, one for each day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm sure we'll end up linking to some of those in the notes. The Spinster, I can do it in one word, Mike. Idiomatic. Who do you like?
I could do it in one word, and it's Candied.
Nice.
Hoping that.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, I do like this one. 3-year-old shipping here, just missed a power squeeze there in the Alabama. I thought raced really well in that spot. This horse is knocking at the door, chasing Torpedo Anna, chasing some of the best in the division. Was able to win here last year in the Alcibiades. So the racetrack's no issue. I think the distance is no issue, and Idiomatic's going to be 2-5 in the race. So if you're going to take a shot here, I do think that's the one to take a shot with. Idiomatic this year really isn't the same. Now, she's been up against it. She's had tough trips. She's been roughed up. There's, not the same level of horse in this race. She's supposed to win. She galloped in this race last year, and she might again, but I'll take a shot with Candied.
Let's go to the Bourbon. I'm going to have a horse-by-horse write-up of this one, so you can check that out in either our email stuff or over at attheraces.com. But give us this one, and then we'll get to this race at the Big A.
I like the 4 Giaco, so I think this one's obvious. Really, I thought raced very well in the Iroquois against Jonathan's Way. I really liked that race there. The prior turf line at Ellis there on August 5th, this horse galloped in that race. I think turf is much better for this horse. You get an inside post. It's going to take some beating. I just think it's faster than these.
We will be back right after this. Actually, we're not going anywhere. I just did that for the audio version. Mike, did you have a horse you wanted to talk about in this Gioponte Stakes really fast?
Oh, yeah, Gioponte Stakes here. I like this race, actually. I'm curious to see the ride here on the 9 Donegal Momentum. Currently set 9-2 right now. Comes off a nice win on the turf at Saratoga there and, had some trouble in that race and still was game to the wire there. Pretty nice figure. I just think the horse needs to be forwardly placed in here from this post, but you're getting some value. Let's see. I thought In a Jam was okay also, the 5. Right now, 11-1. So definitely value in this race. Faced horse like Trickery, back at Colonial in the Secretariat, raced pretty well in there. Fulmineo, also at Colonial. That was a nice race there. This horse has enough speed, I think a little bit of class. I like Cassie. Obviously, I've been touting Cassie on all these podcasts every week. So I do like that horse also. I think is very interesting at a price.
This is another one where for me, it's a little bit more of, I feel like the favorites are just bet enough runners like the 2 and the 10. And I really like your idea on Donegal Momentum with an aggressive pilot in Kendrick Carmouche in the irons, hoping maybe they can try to go to their front and improve position as they get ready to go in for this Gio Ponte Stakes, the feature on this Thursday. Nice to have some stakes action on a Thursday here on HorsePlayers Happy Hour. So we'll talk through this race, and then we'll bring in we're going to bring in our special guest as promised from DRF right after that. But you had a question, Mike?
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on a horse like the 2 here? Obviously, comes off an incident there, and had a fall. To come back, this horse has obvious class, but that first race back after that's always kind of a question mark, I'd say.
Yeah, it definitely is at a short price. I mean, the market is screaming, I guess, that the horse is ready. Just not sure. Too many questions for me to want to take a short price in a race that just looked a little bit more open, than that. Just it is interesting. I mean, back so quickly, you got to figure there's nothing at all physically wrong. Must have just been a blip on the radar to be in so quickly and to have worked apparently just fine since. But yeah, looked like one to take a little bit of a shot against. I mean, certainly has credentials based on those Irish races to win this, but might not. My gut was it wasn't going to be quite as straightforward as the market had it be. And they break, and it does look like Kendrick is going to go right to the lead. Yep. Though I will say, Take Me to Church getting a good positive ride and securing a nice spot there under John Velasquez. So favorite getting an excellent trip in the early stages of this race, ended up going off at 2-1. But you got to be where you want to be with Donegal Momentum right now, I would think, pending a look at the clock.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you want him. If you want to, you expect a horse on the front and he's on the front, that's all you can hope for. If he's not good enough, that's okay too. I mean, we're going to lose a lot more than we win in this game, but if you can set the race up and figure out who's going to be on the front, and then they end up there, at least you kind of have an idea what's going on. So right now, he's controlling the race, controlling the pace. It's just a matter of is the horse good enough?
Yeah, half the battle for sure. Slowed down that second quarter a little bit. Gonna have to be pretty good. I mean, these are honest. The pace is more than even, I'd say, and probably hearing some of the footsteps. And I think Kendrick was hearing the footsteps as he just let this one out a little bit more. The bad news right now, favorite definitely traveling in behind, maybe a little bit, maybe. But Kendrick is getting busy too. I think Kendrick's trying to win the race right here, trying to get everybody else off the bridle. But we'll see.
I love Kendrick though. He's such a good rider. He really is. He's a great rider, especially on a horse in the front.
He definitely gave this horse the best chance to win, whether or not somebody else gets there. And it looks like they're not.
No, there's nobody getting there.
Love that ride. Very aggressive. That's a great way to do it. You see them sometimes get in the position where Kendrick was in and then just like really wrap up and grab. And they're essentially ceding the tactical advantage. He did the opposite. When he was at, when they got to him, when it was right when I said, he's hearing the footsteps, to get away then, that's what you want to do. I think it's a less stressful trip for the horse, and it's a nice run. And the 10 galloped out very well. I would have a note that the 10 was against the flow there and probably one who made up some ground from a long way back. That'd be a horse that I feel like under other circumstances. Yeah, I mean, I really like the way the 10 finishes up here. Presumably, it's just an even pace. It's not like it was some crawl. The 10 was hideously against the flow, but definitely a little bit against the flow here. All right. We've got a lot more races to handicap, but before we get to those, we're going to bring in our special guest who comes to us courtesy of the Daily Racing Form. He's Gino Bucola. Gino, what's up, buddy? We don't have audio from you, my friend.
Gino muted himself.
I was going to say, it's like I've never done one of these before. I was going to say, I remember my first beer, right? Seriously. Hey, Mike, that was a fantastic call right there. Perfect. And now I don't feel as bad that I didn't come with a pick because I couldn't have given you anything that was going to be better than what Mike just gave you. So beautiful.
Gino, I have to say, big fan. I mean, been watching you for a long time, many years on TVG. So huge fan. Really, this is a lot of fun to be here with you.
Oh man, thanks so much. And like I'm a fan of yours now. After you just gave me a $10.
Now I'm giving out winners.
A $10 and change winner. So beautiful stuff. And Pete, always happy to talk with you, man. Like this is This weekend is awesome. I know we're getting excited for the Breeders' Cup, which is coming up next month, but wow. I mean, this weekend, just in the next few days, I think on Saturday alone, there are 16 graded stakes races just on Saturday between 4 major tracks of Keeneland, Belmont, and Aqueduct, Woodbine, and Santa Anita. 18 stakes overall between them. And from Friday to Sunday, 20 Breeders' Cup win and you're in races.
Amazing. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of it covered for you on the airwaves, including the French stuff. I always look forward to talking to our friend Michael Adolphson. He'll be giving us his view on what's going on in Paris. But Gino, if I were to ask you, we're not going to go over all of those races, but we are doing a scary amount of them on this show. But I won't get you involved in that nonsense. I do want to ask you though, if there was one, I won't necessarily hold your feet to the fire for a pick, though you're welcome to give one. But if there's one race that's happening in this upcoming plethora of races that you're looking forward to, what would it be?
I'll give you 2 prices back-to-back at Keeneland. Horses to throw in your all-stakes pick 5s on Saturday. They're going to come in back-to-back. Races 6 through 10, all graded stakes races. Awesome all-stakes pick 5. Keeneland, we're going to go race number 7. It's the filly and mare sprint race. It's the TCA. And some of the top tier sprinters for the fillies and mares, we don't have a Vava in there. Society's not in there. Sweet Azteca's running on the West Coast. I actually think it's a really good spot for the number 7, Red Carpet Ready, who's going to come back from the turf back to the dirt. 6 furlongs feels perfect for a horse who has some speed, can sit off the pace a little bit. I think drawn well to the outside. She's not the top tier filly and mare sprinter. So this spot should be very good for her. I think she could offer us very nice value at anything in like above 5-1 range.
Daughter of Oscar Performance has been very good, very much of a trier, and one that I've always liked and rooted for. So I like that idea. Who are you going to tire?
One bust-up long shot for you in the next race. A horse that we all know very well, deep closer in race number 8, the number 1, Fluffy Socks. This horse just doesn't get very many opportunities to get pace because just a deep closer in these route races on the grass, we all see it. We're all pulling our hair out all the time because they go so slow early on, and a lot of the closers never really have a chance. I actually think cutting back to a mile will give her a little bit more, give a little more pace to run at. So I think she could have a little bit more finish here. We kind of dismiss her because you look through her past performance running lines, she ends up losing a lot of the times to horses that have a lot more tactical speed. I think in this race, they could be going pretty quick early on. Totally respect Gina Romantica, but I think a big long shot that could come running with a little bit of muddied up form, Fluffy Socks at 20-1.
Love it. We love that kind of pick, and it's a good point. And the kind of thing, can't you just? It's one of those things where you envision it after the race, and you envision saying, how did we let Chad Brown go off at 20-1? So I like where you're going with that, Gino. We have you here in part to talk about the DRF coverage of the Breeders' Cup that's coming down the pike. We've talked about what we're doing on the In the Money side, but I know every member of the In the Money team is a big believer in DRF products. Always talking Timeform US, always talking about the PPs, the great reporting that you get over at DRF. But I know year in, year out, you guys put together some stuff that's a little bit special when it comes to the Breeders' Cup. What's on the docket for this year?
Yeah, we've got everything for you. I mean, if you're talking about print, we have Breeders' Cup previews and reports for every one of the Breeders' Cup races. We have an entire Breeders' Cup section now that just popped up a couple days ago. It's all dedicated to everything Breeders' Cup. So for every race, you'll get all the probables for the race. You'll get suggested odds from one of our awesome, talented DRF analysts. And then you'll also get news and notes for that race all in one section. That's what's so great. So for every race, if you want to look at the filly and mare sprint, you click on that section. All of the articles, all of the relevant news, all of the race recaps for races that were relevant to the filly and mare sprint, they're all in one place for you. That's awesome. If you want to go to YouTube and check out the videos, our guy Dan Illman, he is the man. He has everything taken care of for you on the Daily Racing Form YouTube, race previews, recaps, everything heading into the Breeders' Cup. And then our pre-packages just came out. You can purchase them now. And why do you purchase them now, Pete? So that way you can save a bunch of money. We give you deals if you purchase them early. You can save up to 40% now. If you purchase it the week of the Breeders' Cup, you'll get a lot of the same stuff, but you'll have to pay way more. So one of the things, we all know when we're going to be playing the races. You know you're going to be playing these races at the Breeders' Cup. Just put a little bit to the side right now. Go ahead, save yourself some money. You'll have 40% back to play the races on Breeders' Cup instead of spending a little bit extra on the products.
Gino, really appreciate you. DRF.com is the place to go. We're going to visit with you again before the Breeders' Cup, but we'll let you off easy today with the quick cameo. We'll get you back for a longer visit soon. Appreciate you, my brother.
Anytime. You and I are going to talk a lot of wrestling soon. And Mike, great job again on that one. Everyone out there, have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. Looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, buddy. Great energy. That was fun. A nice little
He's the
burst
best.
there. Yeah, that's terrific stuff. Yeah, we've been a fan for a long time as well, and it's great to get a chance to work with him in this capacity with this little triangular partnership we have going with Breeders' Cup and our friends over at Daily Racing Form. Next up on the show, we're going to talk about racing from Belmont at the Big A, and we're going to start with Friday. Mikey P still here with me as we turn our attention to what's the first race we're going to do? Is it the 7th race on Friday? Do I have that right? It's great.
Do you want the 5th race, the turf, the Grade 3 Futurity Stakes for 2-year-olds?
See, that's why you're here. And the reason I didn't have it written down in my notes is because I already talked about it on Baby Talk. So I'm just sending it straight to you. Who do you like in the Futurity?
Not very creative here. Under Whose Radar, I do believe, has a ton of talent. Now, sort of went sideways there at Kentucky Downs in that juvenile sprint stakes and, faced Chasing Liberty in there. I don't think Chasing Liberty was ever going by, but it's hard to say. The fact that Under Whose Radar was sort of all over the racetrack there, ended up disqualified. I know because I needed Under Whose Radar in that race. I did get taken down. We'll see where Chasing Liberty shows up. I do think that that's another one that's very solid in this race. This is a nice race, but I just think Under Whose Radar looms very large in this spot. I'm not crazy about Mentee either. I know that on some other shows, you'll get some Mentee talk. This horse probably has to prove it, especially after that 5 furlong race. That was a huge figure there, but since really hasn't come back quite as well and was, lost a 5-length lead in that race there on June 15th. So that one has to prove it to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Let's move, though, right to, because we've got so much to do, the race number 7, the Grade 3 Weigh-A fillies and mares going 1 mile and 3/8. I had it down to 2 I was going to try to play around with in here. We'll start with number 1. Surprisingly, largely unproven going this far. But I did think the 12 furlong effort was a little bit better than the bare form suggested, just given what the pace situation was in there. I was thinking surprisingly could be able to dictate terms either on the front end or from that inside draw, get a good positive trip, saving ground. But the other one I thought was interesting was the 8-star Fortress course and distance winner. And this horse has just been maybe a little bit over her head in the Grade 1, Grade 2 level. I think it's a real drop down to this particular Grade 3. And I thought might be able to get a good mid-pack type trip. I like a closer who's just not going to have that much work to do. I think she'll be positioned ahead of McCulloch. McCulloch, I just think, certainly goes with a chance, but is a horse that I just think might be overbet in this spot where I'm not sure she's going to get the pace scenario she necessarily wants. I was going to try to lock it up 1-8 and lean a little bit against McCulloch. Are you with or oppose the favorite in this spot, and who do you like?
Definitely opposed to the favorite, like prices, like your Star Fortress in here. If you look back to that race at Churchill on November the 23rd, that was a massive race. It was 104 buyer, 1 by 10 lengths over that goofy Churchill turf course. Was maybe thought of as really something that could be something very special after that race. Now, really hasn't worked out quite, as that race did. But if you look back, there's other lines to think about. I look back to the May 3rd line over this racetrack and just missed going 1 mile and 3/8. I really like that line. And then, ran into Full Count Felicia. Well, we know what happened on Woodmine Mile Day with that one and that front end style. Really no chance in that spot. I like getting back here. I like the distance. And your 8-1 morning line now probably will take a little money in here. But I do think that one is a definite use. And then I'll try the 4 also, Immensitude. Now, this horse, this is Mott. I thought raced pretty well last time at Kentucky Downs from off the pace in a race where on a day whenever the front end was, I think, the place to be. So this horse needs to class up in here, but I think you have the right connections. 3rd off the layoff, you get the increase in distance. There's a lot to like, and it's 12-1 morning line here in a race that I think is very wide open. It could be very interestingly paced, especially with the 6 Idea Generation and coming off the Rabbit win there on August 31st at Saratoga.
Let's move to Saturday, and we'll go right to race number 5, the Jockey Club Derby Grade 3 action going 1 mile and 3/8. My supposition in here, and we'll see how it turns out, is that maybe is the bloom just enough off the Appleby Rose that we can actually get a decent price in this spot on number 7, Legend of Time. Got caught moving a little bit early into the fast fractions last time. The other 2 up in the pace, granted long shots, ended up last and second to last. Ended up that day a perfect setup for today's rival, Carson's Run. And I thought the race before that for Legend of Time was a bit of a flow move up as well, stuck behind the pace in a slow-paced race where the top two galloped around in order. So a double flow move up in either direction that could get the right setup here. Never run this far, but should not be an issue on the bloodlines. I'm not going to ignore Carson's Run. Obvious alternative, having just beaten the top pick and then having run well at Kentucky Downs. We know this horse gets the distance and will be among the best closers. I was just thinking it could be a little bit better of a situation for Legend of Time, but mainly I'm 7-3 in here. What numbers will be on your tickets?
A big Carson's Run fan in this race. I just think is greatly improved. That Monmouth race was very telling, and then showed up in that Saratoga Derby and was able to run down Legend of Time and really had no business winning that race, but still dug in to win late. Then showed up in the Nashville Derby and lost to a Perfect Trip winner who was very well meant in that spot, and I thought was pretty far back on a track that was difficult to close on. I just think that this horse is really getting a lot better. Shows up here and doesn't really have to. I don't think this is that tough a race, honestly. I really like him in here. I've never been a huge deterministic fan, so came and won the Virginia Derby, but just that's a really slow figure. If I were to have a horse out of that race, maybe the one, Desvio. I thought that horse raced very well on the comeback there at Colonial in the Virginia Derby. Maybe had to wait a little bit late. This one could improve. 15-1 morning line probably would use for some verticals.
Okay, interesting. Certainly wanted a price to spice things up there. 3-1 for Mikey P. As we'll go to the very next race, the Belmont Turf Sprint. Grade 3 action going 6 furlongs on the turf. Mike, we'll keep it with you.
So I think the 9-0 better looms very large in here. They raced at Colonial there in the Dahas on September 7th against a motion horse, Izzy Bungu Bungu, who was a South African shipper that is pointing towards the Breeders' Cup. This horse raced very well and just missed catching that horse late. That's a very fast horse. This horse has lots of back lines, too, to look back to. Perfectly drawn. Really just, I think it has a class edge over most of these. Now, I like the one we talked about when we looked at the Keeneland race. If that horse shows up here, I do think is a use with the same angles here. Third back, no cog burn, able to win up close and from far behind. So I think the 9 and the 1 are the ones for me in that race.
I'm with you on nothing better. This horse is just a neck and a nose from going for the 5 Pete in this spot. I love the consistency. I love that he makes his own trip in good form. Should get a really nice trip, if not on the lead, then maybe getting a toe into the race from the 7, Determined Kingdom. That's the way the time form pace projector has, but I just don't see it being a bad trip for nothing better. And between that and that class edge that you refer to, the 1 for me. I may mess around a little bit as a backup with number 8, Allegon. Could get a very similar trip to last time. This horse handles the 6. Nothing better handles the 6. That's another angle I really like at both at this Aqueduct 6 furlong distances. It can be a little stamina testing for a lot of turf sprinters, but I think the 9 and the 8 make a lot of sense, and I definitely respect your idea on Axthelm as well, a horse that's shown the kind of stamina for this type of test. May throw that one in a combo or two. I did race 7, the Frizette, in other formats. Who do you like?
Well, I mean, you have to make a decision on Sense of Parole, right? The 8 horse, 3-5 morning line here. David Haragona doesn't really throw that around very much. And coming off that just smashing win there at Saratoga on August the 23rd with a 94 buyer. And, horses have come back to win out of that spot. Now, if you don't think that she can win, then the race becomes incredibly wide open with a lot of different ways you can go. I do like her. I think she's going to be very difficult to beat. But a horse I like for a price is the 10, Icona Mama. Now, this is Flint Stites. He's a Penn National trainer. He doesn't exactly ship around very much with horses. The fact that he shipped us to Saratoga and Churchill with this one is intriguing to me. And I like that race in the Pocahontas. This horse raced very well from a difficult spot, showed a couple different moves there, ended up third at 30-1. This horse will probably be 30-1 in this race again, maybe even more, especially if the 8 takes massive money. So I'm interested, maybe not on the win end, but I do think the 10, Icona Mama, has a chance to at least hit the exact and maybe the try.
I could see it, honestly, for underneath. I mean, I don't think he's going to land a glove on Sense of Parole, but I mean, if you're looking, these are great exacta spots sometimes where the theoretically faster horses are going to finish way back if they try Senza Parole and get their doors blown off. So with the right kind of ride, I'd want this Icona Mama to be ridden a little bit colder, because I think if she tries Senza Parole, she'll run last. But the same can be said of most of these. So it's an interesting opportunity just in general to look for horses that have any kind of finish and or you think will be running late, presumably passing tired horses. A friend in the UK asked me if 4-1 on Senza Parole for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies was a good price. I told them take all you can eat. What do you think of that? You like that?
I think that's a good price. That would be. I mean, it's always dangerous betting futures and betting things early, but
of course,
she's, you're never going to get 4-1 on the day.
I certainly got burned last year with a similar wager in the same division. That's a story for another podcast. Fortunately, she hasn't even run since. All right, race number 8 is the Champagne. Once again, we go to you.
Well, again, another big favorite. I think Chancellor McPatrick will be very well bet on the board here. 6-5 morning line. And, is all the rage after those 2 races at Saratoga, the nice maiden win from off the pace, and then came from really far back, even after hitting the gate to catch everyone's darling Ferocious. Incentive Pay, I think, is a nice horse too. So, but draws, the 10 post here. It's interesting, I think, that Chad keeps this horse around 1 turn. And I do think that horse is suited for that, configuration. You saw in the 7 furlong race, was able to sit and really make that really big late run. If you're going to take prices here, I'm looking at the 2 Todd horses. Now, Tip Top Thomas, the 2, 7-2 morning line, nice speed win, was game to the wire there on August 24th. Probably is going to get the jump here and, going a mile. Maybe, the Chancellor McPatrick, can't quite catch this one. I think the 5 Uncaged, the other Todd in here, raced pretty well in the slop there on August the 3rd. So, and that horse is very well bred to stretch out also. Curlin coming out of the Pioneer, the now mare. So the pedigree's there. The Pletcher factor is there. So if you're going to take shots against a Chancer in here, I do think the Pletchers are the way to go.
How would you want your picks listed, though? I feel like you're sitting on the fence a little here on me. Are you
a little? I would 2, 5, 10. I would try to beat the Chancer in this race. Just the outside post, all the money flowing through him. Has to come. Deep closers like that are not good bets. Not for me anyway. So now his talent is immense, obviously, but we're doing something new here, further distance. And a lot of the multis flow through him. So these are the horses I like to take shots against.
Good stuff, Mike. We'll take a very quick break and be right back with some chat about racing at Santa Anita. And that's how quick the break was if you're watching live, because I'm going to bring it back in here to do these last few races on the show. We can just about do this, Mike, if we bang through in something on the order of 10 minutes. Let me get the right PPs up so I don't stitch you up like I did in the last one, and we'll bring it right back in to talk about the Oakleaf. Last but not least, on today's show, going to do some analysis of Santa Anita. Such great racing last weekend, but they did not empty the cabinet of stakes races. We've got a few more on this Saturday card. We'll start off with the race that goes as number 3 on Saturday, the Grade 2 Oakleaf for these 2-year-old fillies. This is not a race that we did on Baby Talk, even though it is a 2-year-old race, because we did 8 on there, and that's just how many there are. I was interested, and I'm curious how they bet this race. I now see the morning line and see that Non-Compliant is the 2-1 morning line favorite. I was hoping to maybe sneak away at a little bigger price just off that maiden win, but I really liked how she ran going that 6 furlongs. I think Tiz the Law hasn't had a lot of dirt routers, might not have had any dirt routers yet. He's had some turf route winners. I think the distance is going to be fine with Street Sense on the bottom and the way she uplined in that maiden win. It was very stylish. I think she's the one I want here that will be really suited, I think, by the stretch out from 6 to 8.5 furlongs. Certainly easy to see the credentials of a runner like Tenma, already a Grade 1 winner. I was hoping the market would come for this one. I did think that was a good setup last time. She's also, though, bred to go farther. So that's how I had the race with those 2 runners, the 8 and the 3. Who do you like in the Oakleaf?
Well, Baffert has half of them again, and I like those 2. Those are the 2 the best. I prefer the 3 to the 8, though. I do think the 3 Tenma. You get blinkers. 2 off the pace wins. As a 2-year-old filly, that's really nice to have those off the pace wins. I like Kimura too. I think he's an excellent rider, suits this horse very well, sticks here, and just that versatility to be able to overcome adversity. There's definitely going to be speed with his other horses in the race. So I do like that one. I do think money will come, though, for the 8 non-compliant, especially off that 82 figure there. Really wasn't favored first time out either. So that's an interesting because usually Baffert's favored in all those early maiden races over there at Del Mar. I do like those two. I think I'm not crazy about the 4 Nunia. I think that horse was getting a lot of buzz. Really, that Del Mar Future or Debutante wasn't a great race. Maybe it was the distance. Maybe it was just the day. But they paid $1.8 million for that one. Needs a bounce back for sure.
All right, let's move on to the very next race at Santa Anita, and it is going on to the turf for these 2-year-olds. The Speakeasy going the flat 5. I'm boring, so I'll go first. I thought that Dream Away, the 5, looked like he was going to be that's right, because it's really these sprints, it's either sex, really. She was going to be very hard to beat in this spot. I thought the buyer figure looked like it might be a little low, looking at other figure sources like Timeform US and just looking what horses came out of that race to run. Another one who uplined, the pace figures got faster throughout the course of the race. Love to see that as a suggestion of one that has more ability. And she simply looked awesome on debut. I wasn't going to get cute in the Speakeasy. I was going to bet Dream Away. Who do you like?
I'd be curious to see if Dream Away shows up here or at Keeneland, because we did talk about her when we talked about the Keeneland races, and she's entered on Sunday for the turf sprint over there. So we'll see what she does. If she doesn't show up here, Smash It is certainly interesting. Plenty of big figures. Has faced really tough horses. Citizen Bull, Getaway Car. Those are big Baffert monsters on the dirt. Gets to the turf here. Now, not exactly a screaming turf pedigree, but certainly is faster than these on paper. And that might just be enough, especially if Dream Away isn't in this race.
So how would you list it if Dream Away is in the race? Would you lean Dream Away?
If she is, I would say yes, put her on top. If she's not, I mean, we're not really breaking much ground here. It's probably the 5 or the 6.
Yeah, we'll the less said the better. We give them the favorite, and then as an alternative, the second choice.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's that kind of race. We're not going to just make up favorites to make up favorites, make up prices to make up prices for you. That's not how we roll around here. Our job is to give a view. Maybe not the most exciting of the 20 races.
I give you plenty of prices anyway, so.
You don't force it though. I can
Never.
tell these are it's how you see the world and what your opinions are. I mean, I could give you a random horse in there, but it really, the Star Guitar one, the 6, it's like, what's the old joke that JK related from some trainer friend, which was like, by the time she realizes, or by the time he realizes it's a turf race, it'll be over. Might be that kind of situation with that one. Anyway, race 7 is the grade 3 Chillingworth in this spot for fillies and mares, going 6.5 furlongs. And for me, I was going to just try to lock this one up. Nothing terribly clever. But I guess looking at the morning line, I guess One Magic Filly does become my official top choice, just if the difference in price is really going to be 5-1 to 3-5. I mean, Sweet Azteca has very obvious credentials, but One Magic Filly's getting better and better as well. And a horse that to me just suggested had gotten to a new level last time and might not be done improving. I mean, 1x7 looked really strong. I mean, it wasn't the toughest pace scenario or anything, but Sweet Azteca should, you would think, have some company on the front end here. And One Magic Filly might get a nice shot in behind. Sweet Azteca, probably more of a likely winner, but I think at the prices, I'm still going to go with One Magic Filly. And if I use those two, I feel like I've got it locked up. Who do you like in the Chillingworth?
I mean, Sweet Azteca is obvious. Just faster on paper. Stands to get the right trip here. Loves the racetrack. Now it's 3-5 morning line, but Hope Road has raced very well. And the horse that you like, the 5, One Magic Filly, is another one that certainly has shown ability. If I were looking for an exacta partner, maybe as a price, maybe the 7, Chimosa. This is the last horse to beat Sweet Azteca. Is a closer, I think, can sit back. Is capable of bigger figures too. I mean, if you look back on June 2nd, there was a 92 there. So I do think if maybe a lot of these other ones battle it out, chasing the favorite, this may be a horse that could pick up pieces. And it's 8-1 morning line and probably be the 4th choice on the board. So try to make a little money that way.
So exacta 3-7 for you in the Chillingworth. We've got we've got two races to talk about in about 2 minutes to do it, starting with the Rodeo Drive, grade 2 action for fillies and mares going 1.25 miles. The 1.25 miles is the key to the race for me, and it makes me want to bring in a runner like number 7, Aspen Grove. Got that confidence boosting allowance win at Saratoga at odds on. Had previously maybe just been a little bit over the head, I think it's fair to say, at grade 1 level. Was a flow move up, I thought, coming out of the Modesty and the Hillsborough. I thought there was some chance that you'd see a runner like Be Your Best try to run early with I Scream, You Scream this time. I Scream, You Scream's been so good, but I haven't been with her in the last 2 wins, and now there are some stamina issues to address here. So I was going to go with a closer, and one I know is going to like the 1.25 miles. That's the 7, Aspen Grove. Who do you like in the Rodeo Drive?
If you like closers, maybe the 6, Hang the Moon, would be the closer that you might want in the race. That was a nice race last time in the Maybe. If you watch that replay, this horse was loaded, really, down the backside, and that was a tough race. I mean, you had Anisette in there. This horse was 20-1 in there, but as soon as the hole opened in the stretch, this horse had a ton late and was able to win very well. Now, that was kind of a slower race, but I don't think the stretch out's going to be an issue. You get 6-1 morning line. I understand the 7, and I think that one could be a use. And then the 5, Beach Bomb, ships in for motion off a prep and faced a Chad Brown there at Monmouth. That would be the other horse I'd use in there. I'd be the 6 on top, a little 5-7 underneath.
Let's go to the American Pharaoh. I like the favorite, McKinsey Street. I really liked that last race. I thought it was better on tape than it looks on paper, even just with where this horse was into the pace that went to a pretty perfect trip winner from off the pace in gaming, who does not reoppose in this spot. I thought McKinsey Street would get a really nice trip from down at the inside here and was going to take a lot of beating in the American Pharaoh. Who's your selection?
I'm going to try Citizen Bull. I just think that the trip last time was a little weird. Was wide, looked great around the turn. This horse was bet to favoritism in a very tough race. I like the stretch out. I like that Garcia gets back on here. I think that this horse around 2 turns could be very dangerous, and it's not going to be the favorite in here for Baffert.
No, I think you will. I think you will be the second or third choice on the morning line, actually. Great stuff, Mike. Really fun going through all these races with you on this show. I'll be back to close it out right after this. And let's see, have they gone yet at Belmont at the Big A?
They're walking to the gate.
How about that?
Yeah.
It's like I've done this before. Who do you like in this one to close out the contest at Belmont at the Big A for this HorsePlayer Happy Hour? We'll take a quick look while you analyze the race at the various standings that we have to check out.
So this is a pretty wide open race here. 2-year-old maiden special, 6 furlongs on the grass. Fletcher currently 4-5 in here. Coming off a pretty nice debut. Really didn't take a lick of money in that race, though. Was 7+ to 1 with Irad there. And raced well, decent figure, expected favorite in this race. I would maybe look a little bit elsewhere. I like Kimmel First Timers. I know his numbers are a little bit iffy, but he can get a horse ready. The fact that this horse has 3 turf works in the last 4, the 10 Moonscape, 10-1 right now, and you get a decent post here. You get Carmouche again, so I like that he reaches for Carmouche. Very, very does very well for the Kimmel barn. 23% over this racetrack. So I do think this horse is well meant, maybe speedy, especially given some of these works, and you get a price. So let's see if we can get Kendrick a little back-to-back here to finish out the card.
All right, nice stuff. We're taking a look now at the cut line. I forget what our rules are on ties. I know in the regular season ties advance, so maybe ties advance in here too. But
they should.
Someone's in the comments here. Let me know what we said. So yeah, I mean, all to play for. Anybody who entered picks, who picks a winner, is going to have a very good chance to get to the around the $10 of the cut line. So remind me again, I was messing around with these screens. So give me just the number of your selection, and we'll take a look here, and then I will do the name checking of everybody. But who are we rooting for?
The 10 Moonscape is my top pick. If you were looking for alternatives, maybe the 3 Candy Quest for Cassie. Certainly taking money, 5-1 first timer there with Dylan Davis, who's could be one of the hottest jockeys on the planet right now.
I like it. Well, let's see what happens as we talk through this one. You gave us a winner in the last one, so hopefully you can end out runner here, Belmont at the Big A. Then we'll do the leaderboards and we'll get out of here. I have been drafted to take Perrin and her friend to see the Beetlejuice sequel this evening. Oh. So I prepped while doing handicapping. This isn't the best way to enjoy a movie, but I'd seen it before. But I was pre-HorsePlayers Happy Hour sitting watching the original Beetlejuice, which
has she seen the original though? Because that's a little before her time, yeah.
Oh yeah, she watched it in preparation, so she's now ready to
I hear it's very good.
I had forgotten that all the, of course, I mean, from when it was, what was the 80s, all the effects are practical. So it was just like kind of fun and retro to see, all the models and stuff and the way they created the imagery and funny to see Alec Baldwin that young. Anyway, very enjoyable. Going to go do that next. So they are off here and there's a big favorite who got off to a very big break, but maybe this So Darn Pretty seizing the lead there will cause a little bit of trouble for Tam. I am. How worried were you about this favorite in the spot? Was this one you were like eager to oppose or just one that you felt like was a little bit too short?
I mean, I thought was deserving, but you're dealing with 2-year-olds and 2-year-old grass. You have a ton of firsters in here. So, there's a lot of potential. This horse, I mean, I just think a deserving favorite, maybe not necessarily overwhelming, but right now it's getting a perfect trip and it's probably going to be difficult to beat here.
Definitely looking like going to go by this 11 runner So Darn Pretty down at the Wood. Some are being pulled out to make runs, including the 3 Candy Quest. See if Candy Quest can make this.
There's the Cassie horse.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to go right by, in fact, and end up winning this thing by a length over the 4 to 5 favorite. So, that's.
They should have put that one on top. That was my second choice. So.
You get credit. You get credit anytime. When I'm on TV, if I'm opposing a 4 to 5 favorite and it loses, even if I don't have the winner, I don't give sort of sometimes think about it in terms of grades. F is too harsh. I mean, you're going to give out a lot of losers. You don't want to think it as failing when you don't. But if I'm grading myself, just not tipping odds on that loses, I'm giving myself like at least a C+ no matter what happens. It's probably a little higher than that. So, and if you're only mentioning 2 and you get one across at 9-2, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You're on fire. But I'll tell you what, Mike, we don't have to listen to you. We can just follow whoever Dylan Davis is on, and we'd come up with lots of winners because there's another one for him as we get the proverbial double for Dylan at the end of the card at Belmont at the Big A. I wasn't watching closely enough earlier to see if he had any more on the day. I'm sure that we'll be notified of that in short order. But yeah, that was honestly, with all that work to do this show, that was as fast of for me hosting, as fast of a HorsePlayers Happy Hour as we've ever done, getting all those races in. I feel bad we didn't get to interact with anybody in the comments today. I love doing that, but obviously it's hard with 20. I keep saying 20. I don't know how many races we did on the show, but it was something darn near 20.
It was a lot. It was a lot. You can see it on this paper. You can see how many there are. That's a lot.
You've got the notes. Speaking of notes, we will be sending those around from this show this week to all of not just the In the Money Plus people, but anybody with a free In the Money Plus subscription through our free newsletter. So if you sign up inthemoneypodcast.com/email, you'll get a ton of extra content this week. I know you're part of working on the trip notes. How's that going? What do you tell me? What your production meeting in the middle of the show? What exactly are you going to be releasing?
Well, I do think for this weekend, In the Money Plus preview, we're going to start with the Classic because the preps are done. So a lot of the Breeders' Cup Classic preps, lots of buzz this week, given some of the activity from the Japanese contingent. Oh, yeah. But we're going to be looking at the when you're in preps there for the Classic. Justin Christine, he is does excellent work, and he's done great work for the Derby. If you're not familiar, go back and look at his stuff for the Derby and some of the stuff that we did. Especially if you're a Plus subscriber, and I'm sure that people are familiar. He does a lot of the Weekend Plus pods with me. He's an excellent horse player, really, is able to break down races, break down trips very well. So very valuable information headed to the Breeders' Cup there with these Breeders' Cup when you're in prep race trips that we're going to have for you.
I can't remember. Are those still available? Do we have to do anything to make the trip stuff from the Derby available, or was that on the I can't remember if it was on the regular website or on the Plus side, but if it was on the Plus side, that's a good idea to release some of that stuff, just like a sample anyway.
Yeah, some of the old stuff. He did the Derby and the Oaks, and I believe he did the other Triple Crown races also. So we can certainly make that available.
Yeah, let's remind me if it's not on the site already. That's something I think Tyler can have accessible pretty easily, so folks can get an idea. But of course, you can also just look at the Win and You're In trip notes for the Classic from this week. Any idea when that's going out?
I would expect sometime, probably midday Saturday. We'll probably get that out.
That's super early. Yeah, I mean, anytime. We're going to keep the sort of free window open. I think probably through the middle of the day Sunday, we'll send out a few more fun things as part of the Plus package, and then from there, we'll encourage people to sign up to inthemoneypodcast.com/plus to get all of our info. I think if you're armed with the DRF package that Gino was talking about and what we're doing over here at In the Money, it's going to give you a big jump. It's one of those things where, for a lot of people, obviously it's great to do your own work, but if you're looking for some extra opinions, or if you want it to be a case of we do the work so you don't have to, particularly when it comes to these foreign horses, we're going to have speed figure equivalents for them. Still working on doing that for Japan. Don't have that on lock yet, but I have some good leads to come up with some figures. All right, we are official. Let's see who this is. Our playoff field first. I'm almost sure Bob Montgomery taking the top 2 spots. Derek Uno, Anthony Spinazzola, Matt Miller gets there with one of his, I think, quick pick entries. Anthony Spinazzola will be going twice. David Pierce, Stephen McNatton, Julie LeBoyko, our tour winner. Make sure to check out the interview with her over at our YouTube channel, or the Breeders' Cup YouTube channel. BCBC Diaries, the name of that one. Matthew McJunkin, In the Money's own. James Millar, Andrew Uretsky, Justin Christine, Speak of the Devil, Derek Uno, Nathan Kaczynski. Ooh, this is interesting. Double barreled from Jackson Muniz, one of our BCBC Diaries players who's won enough money this year to get a BCBC seat, but we want him to qualify directly. What a great story would it be?
This looks like an In the Money Plus playlist here with Justin and Jackson and all these guys from ITM Plus. So, hey, these guys are on. You got to get on.
More coming down the line. Stefan Gravina, Dennis Clark, David Pierce again, Matt Texier, Chris Couples, another one of our writers over at InTheMoneyPodcast.com, as is Michael Domable, Mark Henderson, ×2. I bet he's glad I answered his email, telling him how this process worked. Tim Holland, Paul Weiser, John Massian, Michael Domable again, Greg Kingma, Chris Weichel, Trish Smith, John Manarino, John Massian again, John Bold III, Matthew McJunkin again, Malcolm Escare, Chris Andrews, Pete Dressens, and then interestingly, Mike Saletta getting the finishing up in the 40th spot. I'm thinking both of his entries go on. We'll have to see. Julie LeBoyko, a little unlucky, it seems like, being on the outside in with her second entry, but we are not going to cry too many tears for her simply because she already won a $10,000 BCBC seat this season. So, world's smallest violin as far as that goes. Matt Miller's all sixes entry does not get the job done, but hey, he's got one headed forward, so he'll be very happy with that. Let's update the other leaderboard, and then we will see what happened there. Looks like Tim Yoler wins a $10,000 BCBC seat. Nice. The second we'll be giving away as part of these HorsePlayers Happy Hour festivities. Congrats to him. Thomas Michael Abenanti, Nick Fazzolari, and Joel Hansen will be getting breakage. There's some others getting breakage as well, but my voice is getting tired, so I'm not going to read all of those. Sorry, team. Any closing thoughts from you, Mike, before we close out this very fun edition of HorsePlayers Happy Hour?
Just jump in this weekend. Really, this is the time. You get a lot of benefit from enjoying these races and these preps, but you get the benefit of starting to prepare for that Breeders' Cup, and it's coming sooner than you think. So you get a lot of information just watching races. Taking the time to really enjoy things, it'll serve you well. So, and go to inthemoneyplus.com. There's so much good info there. Lots of extra shows, lots of great written information on the free side, but the plus side especially. We're doing a lot of work there, so don't miss that.
Inthemoneypodcast.com is the website. If you want that free email, you add a inthemoneypodcast.com/email. And if you want to go right to Plus and buy that for the month, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus, we'll also encourage you one more time to make sure you subscribe to both the In the Money Media YouTube channel and the Breeders' Cup YouTube channel. Tons of great exclusive content there. And thanks to our friends over at Daily Racing Form for being part of this partnership we have with the Breeders' Cup. Well, thank Mikey P one more time. And Gino, everybody watching the feed, everybody in the comments, sorry I didn't get a chance to get over there this week. I think next week we'll have an opportunity with Aqueduct and Keeneland running to maybe try to do one of these shows where we have the whole contest take place during the show, and we'll have a lot fewer races that we have to handicap too. So that'll be fun. Very different vibes, much more interactive next week. I promise we will get back to that. Until then, check out our content elsewhere. But as far as Horse Players Happy Hour goes, thanks one more time to our friends at Breeders' Cup, especially Haley and Justin. We'll be back next week. This show's been a production of the Breeders' Cup and In the Money Media. I'm Peter Thomas for Natal. May you win all your photos.